Commander Jake Morrison walked into the cold metal room. His boots made sharp sounds on the floor. The alien sat at the table waiting. Its body looked like it was made of broken glass and metal. 4 eyes stared at him. 2 arms ended in sharp claws. The creature was bigger than any human. Dr. Lisa Carter stood near the wall. She watched the screens that showed the alien's heart rate and breathing. Captain Ben Rodriguez sat in the corner with his recording equipment. Everyone was quiet. Jake sat down across from the alien. "I am Commander Morrison," he said. "You asked to speak with human command. Here I am." The alien's voice sounded like grinding rocks. "I am Zeftai of the Vorthan Empire. I was a warrior until your people captured me." "You were fighting against us at Titan's Ring," Jake said. "Now you want to talk. Why?" Zeftai moved his 4 arms. His claws scraped the metal table. "Because my people are afraid. We have never been afraid before." "Not in 1,000 years," Dr. Carter looked at her screens. The alien's stress levels were high but steady. "Commander, his vital signs show he's telling the truth. Whatever he wants to say, he believes it completely." Jake leaned back in his chair. "Your empire has been at war with us for 3 years. You have better ships, better weapons, better technology. What could possibly make you afraid?" "That is exactly the problem," Zeftai said. His voice got quieter. "We are better than you in every way. Our ships are faster. Our weapons are stronger. Our soldiers are bigger and stronger. But we are losing this war." Captain Rodriguez stopped writing. "Losing? Your forces just took the mining station at Europa last month." "Yes, we took it," Zeftai said. "But look at the cost. We lost 12 ships to take 1 small station. We lost 300 warriors to defeat 50 humans. This should not happen." Jake studied the alien's face. It was hard to read expressions on something so different from humans. But fear was easy to recognize. This creature was terrified. "Tell me about your empire," Jake said. "How many worlds do you control?" 17 star systems, Zeftai answered. "We have conquered them all over the past 1,000 years. Each time was the same. We arrive, we show our power. The other species surrenders. They become part of our empire. They work for us. Everyone benefits. But humans didn't surrender," Dr. Carter said. "No." Zeftai's claws dug deeper into the table. "When we first met your species, we did what we always do. We sent ships to your mining colony. We told them to surrender or die. They sent back a message, and what did it say?" Jake asked. "Come and take it." Zeftai shook his head. "We thought it was just stupid pride. Every species says something like that at first. Then they see our ships and change their minds. But humans meant it." Ben Rodriguez looked up from his notes. "That was New Perth Colony. 50,000 people live there." "Yes," Zeftai said. "We thought it would be easy. Show them our power. They would see they could not win. They would surrender. That is how it always works." "But it didn't work with humans," Jake said. "No. When we gave them 1 day to surrender, they used that day to prepare for war. Not to run away, not to beg for mercy. They prepared to fight us." Dr. Carter watched her screens carefully. His stress levels are climbing. "Commander, whatever he's about to tell us, it deeply disturbs him." Zeftai continued. "They destroyed their own buildings rather than let us have them. They sent their children away, but the adults stayed to fight. Old humans, young humans. All of them chose to fight instead of live." "That bothers you?" Jake asked. "It makes no sense," Zeftai said. His voice was getting louder. "Why choose death over life? Why destroy useful things? Why fight when you cannot win? It is not rational behavior." "Maybe we have different ideas about what makes life worth living," Jake said. "That is what scares us," Zeftai replied. "We have studied 17 different species. All of them think the same way. Survival first. Comfort second. Safety third. When faced with superior force, they submit. It is logical. But humans don't think that way," Dr. Carter said. "Humans think in ways we cannot understand. At New Perth, we landed 10,000 warriors. The humans had maybe 500 fighters. The rest were farmers, engineers, teachers. Normal people. But they all fought." Jake leaned forward. "What happened?" "We won," Zeftai said. "But it took us 6 months. 6 months to defeat 500 fighters and 49,000 civilians. We lost 3,000 warriors. 3,000 of our best soldiers died fighting farmers and teachers." Captain Rodriguez whistled softly. "That's a hell of a kill ratio. 1 human killed 6 Vorthan warriors before dying. This should be impossible. We are bigger, stronger. Our weapons are better. But humans fight like nothing we have ever seen. How do we fight differently? Jake asked. HFY was quiet for a long time. His four eyes stared at the table. You fight like you want to die. But not just die. You fight like dying while killing us is better than living under our rule. And that scares your people? Yes, because if humans prefer death to defeat, how do we win? We cannot kill every human in the galaxy. There are too many of you, but we cannot make you surrender either. Dr. Carter looked at her readings again. Commander, he's telling the truth. His fear response is off the charts right now. Jake stood up and walked around the table. The alien tracked him with two eyes while keeping the other two on the door. Even captured and wounded, it was still thinking like a warrior. You said you have information about why your people are losing, Jake said. Is this it? That humans fight hard? No, HFY said. Fighting hard is not the problem. Many species fight hard when they must. The problem is how you think about fighting, how you make war into something else. Emma, what do you mean? You do not just fight battles. You fight ideas. You fight for things that do not exist. You fight for the future. You fight for people you have never met. This makes no sense to us, Jake sat back down. Tell me more. At New Perth, we captured some of your wounded soldiers. We questioned them. They did not talk about tactics or weapons. They talked about their families, their friends, people on worlds we have never attacked. So we realized that when we fight one human, we are fighting all humans. When we attack one human world, every human everywhere becomes our enemy. This has never happened before. The room was quiet except for the sound of machines. Jake looked at Dr. Carter and Captain Rodriguez. Both of them looked worried. There is more, HFY said. Much more. What I have told you is just the beginning. The real truth is worse. Worse how? Because we have learned that humans are not just fighting us. You are studying us, learning from us. And what you learn you use to become better at killing us. Jake felt a chill run down his back. Tell me everything. HFY closed his four eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, he looked older somehow. More tired. I will tell you about New Perth, he said. But I must start before the battle. Our War Master Kethmol was leading the fleet. He was confident. He had conquered 6 worlds already. Each time took less than a month. Jake listened carefully. Dr. Carter checked her equipment and nodded. Everything was recording properly. We sent the standard message to New Perth Colony, HFY continued. Surrender and join the Empire. Your people will be relocated but not harmed. You will work for us, but you will live. Most species accept this offer. But humans didn't, Captain Rodriguez said. The human leader was Mayor Helen Brooks. She was an older woman, maybe 60 years old. She had been a soldier before becoming mayor. She knew about war. HFY paused and scratched marks appeared on the metal table under his claws. Mayor Brooks sent back a message. It was only 4 words. Come and take it. War Master Kethmol laughed. He thought it was just pride, empty words from scared primitives. Jake leaned forward. What did your War Master do next? He gave them 1 day to change their minds. 1 day to see reason and surrender. This is standard procedure. It gives the enemy time to realize they cannot win. Dr. Carter looked at her screens. His stress levels are climbing again. Whatever comes next still bothers him. During that day, we watched the colony with our sensors, HFY said. We expected to see panic. People running. Ships trying to escape. Instead, we saw something different. What? Organization. The humans were not panicking. They were preparing. Mayor Brooks split the population into groups. She sent the children and elderly away on the few ships they had. About 15,000 people left the colony. That seems normal, Jake said. Protecting the weak. Yes, but the rest stayed. 35,000 adults stayed to fight. Not just soldiers, everyone, teachers, farmers, mechanics, doctors. All of them stayed to fight us. HFY's claws scraped deeper into the table. But that was not the strange part. The strange part was what they did next, which was, they started destroying their own colony. They blew up the power stations. They collapsed the mines. They poisoned the water supplies. They destroyed everything of value. Captain Rodriguez stopped writing. They destroyed their own home? Everything. 3 generations of work. Gone in 1 day. War Master Kethmol could not understand it. Why destroy what we might use? It made no logical sense. Jake thought about this. Maybe they didn't want you to benefit from their work. That is exactly what scared us, HFY said. They cared more about denying us resources than about preserving their own lives. This is not normal thinking. Dr. Carter adjusted her equipment. Commander, his fear response is spiking again. The next day we landed, Zeftai continued. 10,000 of our best warriors. We expected to find scared humans hiding in buildings. Instead, we found something else. What a maze. The humans had spent the night turning their colony into a death trap. Every street had barriers. Every building had been turned into a fortress. Every corner hid weapons. Zeftai stood up and walked to the window. His reflection looked ghostly in the metal. We advanced according to standard tactics. We took the main roads. We secured the important buildings. We controlled the high ground. Everything worked exactly as it should. But the humans were not fighting according to standard tactics. They were not trying to hold territory. They were trying to kill as many of us as possible before dying. Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. Tell me about the fighting. It was not fighting. It was slaughter, but not the kind we expected. Zeftai turned back to face them. A human named Carl Peterson killed 3 of our warriors with mining equipment and household chemicals. He was an accountant, a man who worked with numbers. How did an accountant kill 3 warriors? He built bombs from fertilizer. He used mining lasers as weapons. He knew the colony better than we did, so he set traps everywhere. When we finally cornered him, he detonated explosives that killed himself and 5 more warriors. Captain Rodriguez looked sick. He killed himself just to take more of your people with him. Yes, and he was not alone. Hundreds of humans did the same thing. They fought until they ran out of ammunition. Then they used knives. When they lost their knives, they used tools. When they lost their tools, they used their bare hands. Dr. Carter studied her readouts carefully. His heart rate is through the roof. This memory really disturbs him. But the worst part was not how they fought, Zeftai said. The worst part was how they made us feel while fighting them. What do you mean? They talked to us during the battle, on our communication channels. A human named Tony Martinez was their security chief. He spoke our language. He had learned it somehow. Jake raised an eyebrow. He spoke Vorthon? Perfectly. He got on our command frequencies and started talking to our warriors. Not threats, not curses. He talked about their families, their hopes, their fears. Psychological warfare, Jake said quietly. He told our warriors that they were far from home, that they would die on a world whose name they could not even pronounce, that their families would never know exactly how they died. He made them think about things warriors should not think about during battle. Zeftai sat back down heavily. His metal chair groaned under his weight. But Tony Martinez did something worse than that. He told our warriors about the human families they were fighting. He described the children who had been evacuated, the elderly who had chosen to stay and fight, the teachers who were building bombs instead of teaching lessons. He made your warriors see the humans as people, Dr. Carter said. Yes. And that made everything harder for us. It is easy to kill an enemy. It is hard to kill someone whose story you know. Jake looked at his notes. How long did the battle last? 6 months. 6 months to defeat 50,000 civilians with only 500 trained fighters among them. Every day we lost more warriors. Every day the humans found new ways to kill us. What kinds of ways? They used their knowledge of the colony against us. Engineers collapsed tunnels while our warriors were inside. Doctors used medical equipment to create weapons. Teachers organized the children into messenger networks before evacuation. Captain Rodriguez looked confused. Children as messengers? The human children memorized our patrol schedules, our guard rotations, our supply routes. When they were evacuated, they carried this information to other human colonies. Soon every human world knew exactly how we operated. Jake felt impressed despite himself. Smart. Too smart. By the time we realized what the children had done, it was too late. Other human colonies were already preparing defenses based on what the New Perth children had observed. Dr. Carter looked at her equipment again. Commander, you should see this. His brain scans show he's reliving trauma right now. Whatever happened at New Perth changed him permanently. The battle ended when we killed the last human fighter, Zeftai said. Mayor Helen Brooks died in the government building. She was 73 years old. She killed 2 warriors with a pistol before they got her. And that was when you won? No, that was when we realized we had lost. Zeftai looked directly at Jake. We conquered a dead world. Everything valuable was destroyed. Everyone useful was dead or evacuated. We gained nothing except graves for 3,000 of our best warriors. The room was quiet for a long moment. But War Master Kethmal declared victory, Zeftai continued. He sent reports to the Empire saying the humans had been defeated. He said they were no different from other species. He was wrong. How do you know? Because 3 months later, humans attacked our supply depot at Vega Station. Humans who had never been to New Perth. Humans who lived 50 light years away. They used the same tactics we saw at New Perth. They destroyed everything valuable before we could take it. They fought like they wanted to die. Jake stood up and paced around the room. The New Perth survivors taught other colonies how to fight you. Not just survivors. The children. The evacuated families. They spread the knowledge everywhere. Soon every human colony knew how to turn a city into a death trap. Every human civilian knew how to make bombs from household materials. And that's when your empire realized it had a problem. Yes, we thought we were fighting one colony. Instead, we had taught the entire human species how to kill us efficiently. Zeftai looked at the floor. That was 3 years ago. We have been losing ever since. Dr. Carter noticed something strange on her monitors. Every time Zeftai mentioned specific human names, his stress levels jumped dramatically. It was like each name carried its own weight of terror. There is something else, Zeftai said. Something that makes humans different from every other species we have fought. Jake sat back down. What? You learn. Not just facts or tactics. You learn how to hurt us in ways we never expected. You study our weaknesses and then use them against us. Captain Rodriguez looked up from his notes. All species learn during war. No, Zeftai said firmly. Other species learn how to fight better. Humans learn how to fight crueler. There is a difference. Dr. Carter watched her screens carefully. His brain activity is spiking in areas associated with fear and confusion. Tell me about this learning, Jake said. Zeftai was quiet for a moment. After New Perth, we thought we understood humans. Brave but stupid. Willing to die but not very effective. We were wrong about the second part. How? 6 months after New Perth, we encountered Captain Amy Sullivan. She was commanding human forces in the asteroid fields near Ceres. We thought it would be easy. Asteroids have no atmosphere. No place to hide. No resources to make weapons. Jake leaned forward. What happened? Captain Sullivan did something we had never seen before. When our hunting fleet found her ships, she did not try to fight us. She did not try to run away. Instead, she sent us a message. What kind of message? Intelligence. Detailed information about our empire, about our home worlds, about our families. The room went quiet. Captain Rodriguez stopped writing. She knew the names of our War Master's children, Zeftai continued. She knew which foods our warriors missed from home. She knew our religious ceremonies, our mating cycles, our cultural taboos. Dr. Carter looked confused. How could she know those things? We asked the same question. The answer terrified us more than any weapon could, which was, humans had been studying us since first contact. Every battle, every conversation, every captured piece of equipment. You were learning about us while we thought you were just dying bravely. Jake felt a chill. Captain Sullivan used this information as a weapon. Worse, she used it as a threat. Her message told us exactly how vulnerable our homeworlds were, how easy it would be for humans to attack our civilians, how much humans had learned about our supply lines, our trade routes, our military bases. Zeftai stood up again and walked to the corner, but Captain Sullivan did not threaten to attack our families. That would have made sense. Instead, she promised to make the war personal for every Vorthan warrior. What do you mean personal? She said that humans would remember the name of every Vorthan who died in this war. That you would learn about their families, their hopes, their dreams. That you would make sure their families knew exactly how and why they died. Captain Rodriguez looked sick. She was going to tell your families about the war. Not just tell them, show them. Captain Sullivan had recorded the deaths of Vorthan warriors at New Perth. She had images, videos, detailed accounts of how each warrior died and who killed them. Dr. Carter checked her equipment again. Commander, his trauma response is off the charts. But the worst part was what she did next, Zeftai said. She asked our hunting fleet commander to choose. Choose what? Fight her and lose warriors whose families would learn exactly how they died, or let her go and admit that humans could disappear whenever they wanted to. Jake thought about this. What did your commander choose? He chose to fight. It was the only choice that preserved honor. But Captain Sullivan made him pay for it. How? She did not fight the way we expected. Instead of ship-to-ship combat, She broke her forces into small groups. They hid among the asteroids and waited. Zephty's claws left new scratches on the wall. For 3 months, we hunted ghosts. Small human ships would appear, attack our supply convoys, then disappear again. We could never find their base. We could never predict where they would strike next. Guerrilla warfare, Jake said. Your word for it means nothing to us. We had no word for this kind of fighting. Warriors fight battles. They meet enemies face to face. They win or lose with honor. But humans don't always fight with honor. No. You fight to win. Captain Sullivan's people would attack medical ships, food transports, communication relays. They attacked everything except our combat vessels. Captain Rodriguez looked confused. Why avoid the warships? Because destroying warships does not cripple an army. Destroying supplies does. Captain Sullivan understood this. She made our fleet starve while our weapons sat unused. Dr. Carter studied her readouts. He's showing signs of post-traumatic stress. These memories are deeply disturbing to him. But Captain Sullivan did something worse than starving us, Zephty continued. She started playing games with our minds. Games? She hacked our communication systems. Late at night, when warriors were trying to sleep, human voices would come through our speakers. Quiet voices. Gentle voices. Jake felt confused. Threatening voices? No, that is what made it horrible. The voices were human children singing lullabies. Soft songs about going to sleep, about dreams and peace. I don't understand. The children's songs were mixed with recordings of Vorthan warriors dying, battle sounds, death screams, pain and suffering mixed with innocent music. Captain Rodriguez dropped his pen. That's psychological torture. Yes, but worse than torture. Torture we understand. This was something else. It made our warriors think about their own children while listening to the sounds of death. Dr. Carter looked at her screens with concern. Commander, you need to see this. His brain is showing extreme stress patterns. One warrior named Kephalos went insane, Zephty said. He started crying during battle. He said the human voices reminded him of his daughter's singing. He could not fight anymore. What happened to him? We sent him home. But the damage was done. Other warriors started having the same problem. They would hear their own children in the human voices. They would think about their families instead of fighting. Jake walked around the table. Captain Sullivan broke your warriors mentally. She did worse than that. She made us understand that humans study pain the same way they study everything else. They learn what hurts us most, then they use it as a weapon. Did you ever catch Captain Sullivan? No. After 3 months, she sent us another message. This time it contained detailed intelligence about our homeworlds. Military bases, civilian populations, infrastructure. Zephty turned back to face them. She had somehow gathered information about targets throughout the entire Vorthan Empire. Places we thought were secret, places we thought were safe. How could she know about your homeworlds? We do not know. But her message was clear. Humans could strike at our families whenever they chose, not just military targets, schools, hospitals, nurseries where our children lived. Captain Rodriguez looked pale. Did she threaten to attack civilians? No, she did something much worse. She offered to protect them. The room went completely silent. Captain Sullivan said that humans did not make war on children, that if Vorthan families wanted safety, they could ask humans for protection instead of their own military. Dr. Carter looked confused. She offered to protect your families from your own empire. Yes, and some families accepted. Vorthan civilians started sending messages to human space, asking for help, asking for protection from the war their own leaders had started. Jake felt his stomach turn. She turned your civilians against your government, without firing a shot at them, without threatening them, by offering them something their own empire could not provide. Safety. Zephty sat back down heavily. That was when our leaders realized we were not fighting soldiers. We were fighting something much more dangerous. What? We were fighting humans who understood that war is not just about weapons. It is about minds, hearts, fear, hope, things we had never thought to use as weapons. Captain Rodriguez closed his notebook. What happened next? Captain Sullivan and her people disappeared. We never found them, but their methods spread to other human forces. Soon every human commander was using psychological warfare against us. Dr. Carter looked at her monitors again. His stress levels are stabilizing, but he's showing signs of clinical depression now. There is more, Zephty said quietly. Much more. What I have told you is just how humans fight our minds. But they also learned to fight our bodies in ways we never expected. Jake sat back down. Tell me, Lieutenant Scott Harris, Zeftai said. The name seemed to cause him physical pain. He specialized in what humans call psychological operations. What did he do? He made us afraid to sleep. Zeftai's voice became very quiet. Jake had to lean forward to hear him properly. Dr. Carter adjusted her equipment to pick up the softer sounds. Everything changed when we captured the human soldier Danny Walsh, Zeftai said. This was during the siege of Europa Station. He was wounded but alive. Our intelligence officers thought they could learn human military secrets from him. Did they? Captain Rodriguez asked. No. Danny Walsh taught us something much more important and much more terrifying. He taught us why humans fight the way they do. Jake waited for the alien to continue. Our interrogators used standard techniques. Pain, fear, threats. Danny Walsh did not break, but he also did not resist in the way we expected. Dr. Carter looked at her screens. His stress patterns are changing again. This memory affects him differently. How did he resist? Jake asked. He talked about his family, not military information, personal things. He told our interrogators about his daughter Emma. She played baseball. She was 8 years old. She had lost her first tooth the week before he left for Europa Station. He talked about his family during interrogation for hours. He described his wife Kate's cooking, how she made soup when he was sick, how she sang while working in their garden. He talked about his father who taught him to fish when he was young. Captain Rodriguez looked confused. That doesn't sound like resistance. That is exactly what confused our interrogators. Danny Walsh was not trying to hide information. He was sharing it freely, but none of it was useful for winning battles. Zeftai stood up and walked to the window again. Our intelligence officers could not understand it. Why talk about personal things during interrogation? What was the purpose? What did they think the purpose was? Jake asked. At first they thought it was a distraction technique. Keep the interrogators focused on unimportant information to protect military secrets. But Danny Walsh was not hiding anything. When they asked about military plans, he answered honestly. Dr. Carter looked surprised. He gave away military information? Yes, troop movements, supply schedules, communication codes, everything our interrogators wanted to know. He answered every question completely and truthfully. Jake felt confused. Then why do you say this was terrifying? Because our interrogators realized that Danny Walsh was not fighting for military objectives. He was not fighting for territory or resources or strategic advantage. What was he fighting for? Zeftai turned back to face them. Love. Danny Walsh was fighting because he loved his daughter Emma. He loved his wife Kate. He loved his elderly father. He was fighting to protect them. The room was quiet for a moment. We do not understand this concept, Zeftai continued. Vorthon warriors fight for the Empire, for honor, for duty, for conquest. These are logical reasons, but love isn't logical. Love is personal, individual. Danny Walsh was not fighting because his leaders ordered him to fight. He was fighting because failing to fight would hurt people he cared about. Captain Rodriguez wrote notes quickly. How is that different from fighting for duty? Duty can be changed. Orders can be withdrawn. Honor can be satisfied. But love, Zeftai paused. Love does not end when battles are lost. Love does not compromise. Love does not surrender. Dr. Carter checked her equipment. His brain activity is showing something interesting. The fear patterns are mixing with what looks like admiration. Our intelligence division studied Danny Walsh for weeks, Zeftai said. They wanted to understand human motivation. What they learned changed everything we thought we knew about this war. What did they learn? They learned that when we fight humans, we are not just fighting individuals. We are fighting entire networks of love. Danny Walsh was connected to his family. His family was connected to their community. Their community was connected to other communities across human space. Jake began to understand. When you attack one human, you create enemies everywhere. Exactly. When we destroyed Europa Station, we did not just eliminate a military target. We created thousands of humans across dozens of worlds who now had personal reasons to kill every Vorthon they encountered. Zeftai walked back to the table and sat down. Danny Walsh explained this to our interrogators. He said his daughter Emma would grow up knowing that Vorthons killed her father. She would teach her children to hate us. They would teach their children. The hatred would spread and multiply forever. That's a pretty dark way to think about it, Captain Rodriguez said. But it is accurate. Our scholars studied human history to understand this better. They found that humans have been forming these emotional networks for thousands of years. Dr. Carter looked interested. What kind of networks? You form emotional bonds not just with your families, but with your communities, your nations, your species. You even form emotional bonds with abstract concepts. Like what? Freedom, justice, democracy, equality. Ideas that do not exist in physical form, but humans will die to protect them. Jake felt a chill. You're saying humans fight for ideas the same way we fight for our families? Yes. And this terrifies us because we cannot destroy an idea. We can destroy ships, planets, even entire star systems, but we cannot kill concepts like freedom or justice. Zephty's claws scraped the table again. Our scholars call this human pack bonding. The ability to form emotional connections with anything you perceive as part of your group. Pack bonding? Like predatory animals that hunt together. But humans extend this instinct beyond their immediate family or tribe. You consider the entire human species to be your pack. Captain Rodriguez looked up from his notes. Is that unusual? Very unusual. Most species form bonds with their immediate family, maybe their local community. Humans form bonds with billions of individuals they have never met and will never meet. Dr. Carter studied her readouts. His confusion patterns are off the charts. This concept really disturbs his thinking. Danny Walsh proved this to our interrogators, Zephty continued. He said he would fight to protect humans on worlds he had never visited. Children he had never met. Future generations that had not been born yet. And your interrogators believed him? They tested him. They described hypothetical attacks on random human colonies. Colonies Danny Walsh had no connection to. His emotional responses were the same as when they described attacks on his own family. Jake walked around the table thinking. So humans fight for strangers the same way they fight for family. Yes, this makes victory impossible for us. If we conquer one human world, every other human world becomes more determined to fight us. If we kill human civilians, human soldiers become more dangerous. Because you're attacking their extended family. Exactly. We thought we were fighting individual colonies or planets. Instead, we were fighting the entire human species, every time we attacked any part of it. Zephty looked directly at Jake. But the worst part was what Danny Walsh told our interrogators about human military doctrine. What about it? He said that human commanders understand pack bonding. They use it as a weapon. Dr. Carter looked confused. How do you use emotional bonds as weapons? Human military leaders know that attacking civilian targets makes human soldiers fight harder, not weaker. So they allow us to attack civilians sometimes. The room went completely silent. What do you mean they allow it? Jake asked quietly. Human commanders could protect every civilian target if they wanted to, but they choose not to protect some of them. They let us attack places like schools or hospitals. Captain Rodriguez dropped his pen again. Why would they do that? Because every civilian death makes every human soldier more motivated to kill us. Human leaders sacrifice some civilians to make their armies more effective. Jake felt sick. That's monstrous. No, Zephty said. That is brilliant. Cold and calculating and brilliant. Human leaders understand that soldiers motivated by love and anger fight better than soldiers motivated by duty. Dr. Carter looked at her screens with concern. Commander, his brain activity suggests he's telling the truth, but this is extremely disturbing information. Danny Walsh explained it simply. Zephty continued. He said that human military doctrine accepts some losses to maximize fighting effectiveness. Dead civilians create motivated soldiers. Motivated soldiers win wars. Did he say this was official policy? He said it did not need to be official policy. Human commanders understand psychology. They know that protecting every civilian target is impossible, and that trying to do so weakens overall military effectiveness. Jake sat back down heavily. So human leaders deliberately allow some atrocities to motivate their troops. Yes, and it works. After every civilian target we destroy, human resistance becomes more fierce, more creative, more desperate. Zephty leaned forward. But Danny Walsh told us something even worse than that. Worse? He said that humans were holding back. The room went dead silent. Dr. Carter's equipment registered a massive spike in Zephty's stress levels. What do you mean holding back? Jake asked very quietly. Danny Walsh said that human military commanders had been ordered to use only conventional tactics against us. No strategic weapons, no total war protocols, no unrestricted warfare. Why would they hold back? Because humans wanted to study us first, to learn our capabilities, to understand our psychology. Danny Walsh said this war was practice for humans. Captain Rodriguez looked pale. Practice? Jake felt the blood drain from his face. What do you mean this war is practice? Zeftai's four eyes stared at the table. His claws had carved deep grooves in the metal. After Danny Walsh was exchanged in a prisoner swap, our intelligence division began a comprehensive study of human civilization. What they found changed everything. Dr. Carter noticed that her equipment was picking up something new. Commander, his fear response has reached levels I've never seen before. Whatever he's about to tell us represents absolute terror for his species. Our scholars accessed human historical databases, Zeftai continued. They wanted to understand human military capabilities. They thought they would find records of primitive conflicts, small wars between human tribes or nations. What did they find instead? They found records of humans fighting wars that killed hundreds of millions of their own people. Wars that lasted for years. Wars where humans developed weapons so terrible that humans themselves decided never to use them again. Captain Rodriguez looked up from his notes. Which wars? Your World War II. Your Cold War. Conflicts where humans built weapons that could destroy entire planets. Weapons that could kill every living thing on a world without damaging the infrastructure. Jake felt a deep chill settle in his bones. Biological weapons. Worse than biological weapons, your scholars developed something called mutual assured destruction, the ability to guarantee that any enemy attack would result in the complete annihilation of the attacker's civilization. Dr. Carter checked her equipment again. His terror response is literally off my charts. I've never seen readings like this. But the most terrifying discovery was not what weapons humans had built, Zeftai said. It was what weapons humans had chosen not to use. What do you mean? Our scholars found records of human leaders during your World War II. They had the ability to use chemical weapons that would have ended the war quickly, but they chose not to use them. Chemical weapons were banned by international law. That is exactly what terrified our scholars. Humans created laws to limit their own weapons during wartime. Even when facing extinction, humans chose to fight with restrictions rather than use their most effective tools. Zeftai stood up and walked to the corner of the room. Do you understand what this means? Tell me. It means that for 3 years humans have been fighting the Vorthan Empire while deliberately limiting your own effectiveness. You have been studying us, learning from us, practicing against us, but not actually trying to destroy us. Captain Rodriguez dropped his notebook entirely. Are you saying humans could have won this war already? Our scholars believe humans could have ended this war in the first month if you had chosen to do so. Jake stood up and paced around the room. Why haven't we? According to intercepted human communications, your leaders are treating this conflict as what you call a limited police action, a regional dispute that requires careful management rather than total victory. Dr. Carter looked at her screens with growing concern. Commander, you need to hear this. His brain patterns suggest he believes every word he's saying. Our intelligence division intercepted communications between human military leaders. Zeftai continued. General Paul Thompson requested permission to use what he called strategic deterrent options. Permission was denied. What are strategic deterrent options? We do not know exactly. But General Thompson's request mentioned weapons with planet-killing capability. Weapons that could eliminate the Vorthan homeworlds in a matter of hours. Jake stopped pacing. Planet killers? President Nancy Collins denied the request. She said the conflict did not justify the use of strategic weapons against a developing civilization. Developing civilization? Zeftai turned to face them. That is how human leaders classify the Vorthan Empire. As a developing civilization that has not yet reached full technological maturity. The room was completely silent except for the sound of machines. Our empire has conquered 17 star systems, Zeftai said quietly. We have technology that can travel faster than light. We have weapons that can destroy moons. We have ships larger than human cities. But humans consider you primitive? According to your classification system, yes. The Vorthan Empire rates as a Type 1.3 civilization on something called the Kardashev scale. Humans rate yourselves as Type 2.1. Captain Rodriguez picked up his notebook with shaking hands. What's the difference? Type 1 civilizations can harness the energy of their home planet. Type 2 civilizations can harness the energy of their entire star system. The difference in capability is, Zeftai paused. There is no comparison. Dr. Carter looked at her equipment with growing alarm. Commander, his physiological responses suggest he's experiencing an existential crisis right now. But the most terrifying part of our intelligence analysis was not your current capabilities, Zeftai said. It was your projected capabilities. What do you mean? Human scientific development is accelerating. Our scholars estimate that within 50 years, humans will achieve Type 3 classification, the ability to harness the energy of entire galaxies. Jake sat back down heavily. And you're worried about what humans will do with that power? We are worried about what humans will do when you encounter a civilization that actually threatens you. A civilization that humans consider worthy of total war. Zeftai walked back to the table. For 3 years, the Vorthan Empire has been fighting humans who are barely trying. Humans who are following rules of engagement designed to minimize casualties. Humans who are treating this war as a training exercise. Training for what? Training for the day when humans encounter an enemy that forces you to abandon your self-imposed limitations. An enemy that makes you stop holding back. Captain Rodriguez looked sick. What would that look like? Our scholars found records of what happens when humans stop holding back. Your World War II ended when humans built weapons that split atoms and used them to destroy cities. Your Cold War featured weapons that could have ended all life on your planet. Dr. Carter monitored her equipment carefully. His terror response is so high I'm worried about system overload. But those were primitive weapons compared to what humans possess now. Zeftai continued. Our intelligence analysis suggests that modern human weapons could eliminate the Vorthan Empire without humans ever leaving their home system. How? Long-range kinetic bombardment, antimatter weapons, artificial intelligence warfare, technologies the Vorthan Empire cannot defend against and does not fully understand. Jake felt overwhelmed. If humans are so powerful, why are we fighting this war at all? Because humans are not fighting this war. You are managing it, controlling it, learning from it, using it to test new tactics and technologies without revealing your true capabilities. Zeftai's claws left new scratches on the table. Our scholars believe that human military leaders are using this conflict to train their officers in alien psychology, to practice fighting non-human enemies, to develop protocols for future conflicts with more dangerous species. What more dangerous species? The species humans are really preparing to fight. The ones humans actually consider a threat. Captain Rodriguez looked confused. Who would humans consider a threat? We do not know. But our intelligence suggests that human deep space exploration has detected signs of civilizations far more advanced than the Vorthan Empire. Civilizations that rate Type 3 or higher on your scale. Dr. Carter looked at her readings with growing concern. Commander, his stress levels are approaching dangerous territory. The terrifying truth is that humans are not just holding back against us, Zeftai said. You are preparing for wars we cannot even imagine. Wars against enemies so powerful that the Vorthan Empire would be considered irrelevant. Jake walked to the window and looked out at space. What does your empire want? Immediate cessation of hostilities, formal peace treaty, recognition of human territorial claims, withdrawal of all Vorthan forces from human space. In other words, you want to surrender. Yes. For the first time in our empire's history, we are requesting terms from an enemy we cannot defeat. Captain Rodriguez closed his notebook. What terms are you offering? Whatever terms humans demand. Trade agreements, technology transfers, mutual defense pacts. We will accept any conditions that guarantee peace. Dr. Carter looked at her equipment one more time. Commander, his readings suggest complete honesty. He believes everything he's told us. Jake turned back to face the alien.
Why are you personally telling us this?
Why not send a diplomat? Because I am a warrior who fought humans in battle. I have seen what you are capable of when you are barely trying. I have seen human soldiers die for abstract concepts like freedom and justice. I have seen human commanders sacrifice their own people to achieve strategic objectives. Zeph, I looked directly at Jake. I have seen humans fight with one hand tied behind their back and still defeat the best warriors my empire could produce. I know what will happen if humans ever decide to use both hands. And what will happen? The complete annihilation of the Vorthan Empire. Not just our military forces, Our entire civilization, our home worlds, our history, everything we have built over 1,000 years will disappear in a matter of days. The room was quiet for a long moment. Your species does not just wage war, Commander Morrison, Zeftai said quietly. You perfect it, then choose